Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
They're like Back to the Future shoes, but you have to control them with an app on your phone.
And Brandon Schultz.
How to be wrong frequently and often, but make huge money while doing it.
Go Hawks!
This is the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. Joining me, my good buddy, Montana Seahawker Adam Emmert.
It's done? This is a year in review show? It's really over?
We're at the end. It's the 2018 season's over, although we still have championship games and Super Bowl to watch, and the Seahawks aren't in it.
Yeah, nobody really cares. I mean, are you at all excited about the Final Four? The last four teams remaining?
I think for most Seahawks fans, Saints-Chiefs is the least offensive matchup.
I could see that. I kind of want to see Saints-Pats.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I just want to see Breeze and Brady go at it.
Breeze and Brady would be a good matchup.
But I know how much so many people hate the Patriots for like no reason, but that's fine. They can do that.
Well, if it's Rams-Patriots, I don't know if I'm watching, but I definitely would want the Patriots to win.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I saw somebody post something along the lines of they would want the Rams to win that game. And it's like,
what?
Back the truck up. No.
Why?
The last thing in the world we need is the 5 LA Rams fans to have a Super Bowl trophy to brag about.
If it's Rams Patriots and the Rams win, the only cool thing about that is that it's the rematch of Tom Brady's first Super Bowl win. And then if the Rams beat him and then he retires, then it's kind of a neat closure in terms of an NFL storyline.
Don't you try to put a bow on a Rams win.
It's a bad idea.
Well, we can get into more of what's happening in the rest of the NFL here towards the end of the show, because I don't know if we'll do a pick'em show or not this week, but I definitely have some thoughts regarding that Final Four.
We need to talk about the pick'em league in general because we have some controversy.
Well, you call it controversy. I call it straight up cheating, and y'all know who you are, and if you don't, you're about to find out.
Well, let's get into reviewing the 2018 season for the Seahawks, Adam. I think it's important to start out by recognizing our late owner, Paul Allen, and his 22 years as Seahawks chairman, because when we talk about the Seahawks in general, for the franchise history, it's really going to break down to before Paul Allen and after Paul Allen in terms of Seahawks eras.
I can see how you would think that. I mean, there were owners before.
Well, yeah, but when he took over the franchise in 1997, it was a franchise that was 148 wins, 176 losses, losing record in the regular season, losing record in the playoffs, 3-4. Since 1997, until the time he passed this year, only 6 franchises have won more games over that stretch. Only 5 teams have won more playoff games. The Seahawks had 189 regular season wins to 152 losses, one tie. 55% winning percentage. In the playoffs, 13-11, 54% winning percentage. Division titles under Paul Allen, 9. Before Paul Allen, 1. Super Bowl appearances, 3.
He definitely has to go down as the most prolific owner for the Seahawks. There's no doubt about it. And having that stable ownership for that many years, and a very forward-thinking man, and the guy with the pocketbooks, too, to literally bankroll the whole thing, you don't come across that a lot. And it is a bummer that he's gone for obviously far more reasons than just being the owner of the Seahawks. But, as 12s, I mean, selfishly, that's going to be a blow. Even though it does sound like his sister is kind of rising to the occasion and will be a positive influence as well. So that's encouraging.
Let's talk about the 2018 season in particular. This was the 7th time since Pete Carroll took over. Our Seahawks have been in the playoffs, only missed 2 seasons of playoff football with Pete Carroll at the helm. And this year was the year that he passed Mike Holmgren for the most wins by a Seahawks coach in franchise history. And it was a season where they went 10-6 on a year where there wasn't the high expectations, especially in the media. And he bounced right back after losing dudes like Cam Chancellor, Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, Earl Thomas early in the season, Jimmy Graham. These are Pro Bowl caliber players, and some of them maybe even Hall of Fame players. Richard Sherman, another one of them.
You talk about the turnover and the expectations going into this year. And the phrase that I was thinking when we started the show was, well, 2018, bittersweet, right? But then I was like, no, it's not really bittersweet. Like, it's kind of just sweet.
Yeah.
Because honestly, again, nobody had the expectations that the Seahawks would play this well. I mean, short of a few folks, right? Like, this was kind of the season that we had kind of expected out of this team. So it was nice that they performed to the level that they were capable of.
Well, we had the expectations of Russell Wilson being a quarterback who can lead a team to 9 or 10 wins. And we saw that. We saw the defense regress to about middle of the pack. Mm-hmm. And you still had Russell Wilson at the helm and able to get it done with guys like Baldwin and Tyler Lockett and Chris Carson.
But I think the part that you have to be excited about going forward is that they have turned the page with a lot of these older veterans, brought in a lot of new young, hungry talent that is performing well, with another draft coming up to help bolster those things. You got the little free agent steals that they make. I mean, they signed some D tackle from the Browns to a futures deal that is super intriguing. I mean, he's an amazing run stopping D tackle.
Right.
And they just found him out in the middle of nowhere. And he's just literally not on a roster, which these are the types of shrewd things that John Schneider is historically able to do. And you look at all of those things, Frank Clark playing with no elbows. You see the running game come back to life. You see the offensive line play like a real offensive line. You see Russell Wilson have an incredibly efficient year. You see Tyler Lockett have his breakout year. You know Doug Baldwin will be right next year. You start thinking about all those things, and holy cow, like, the future is so bright. And you just feel like this brief little window where the Rams got to have 2 division titles, like, congratulations. You feel like the Seahawks are about to rattle off another 4 or 5. And it's awesome. I'm super encouraged.
Well, let's check in with Pete Carroll. He did have his end of the year press conference here in the last couple of weeks, and hear from him on how he characterized the 2018 season.
The season was a season of growth and progress and proving and coming to grips with who we are and what we could do, and in a great fashion. It was a marvelous season of work with our guys. It was so much fun to see these guys grow and to see them see the future and to go for it and not take a step back at any time as far as how they went about it and took to the challenges and all. And we come out of here with a great feeling about our future. Our guys are excited about it. They know that we can do some damage in the playoffs. They know that we can go a long ways, and they know that they have a lot of work ahead of them too. There's all the indications that, where you come up short, there's enough of them. There's enough lessons here that we've learned, and so I mean, I love this team and I love where we're going, and it's going to be more competitive than ever. The roster will continue to be built and constructed to be competitive and bring out the best in our guys. It's evident to me that we made a connection with our fans, that they can feel our team and they can feel the future with us, and it's exciting. And so we actually leave here, on a positive, in that we know that there's a lot of work to be done, but there's so much out there for us. And so it was a really good feeling about it, and tremendous frustration along with that. So at a time like this, you got to deal with all of it, and we did. So on we go.
Yeah, so on we go. And apparently I was toting the party line earlier with just leading up to what Pete said, because, a lot of the same thing. It is a hopeful feeling. There's no doubt about it. And I'm excited about Pete Carroll being excited, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, he feels a little recharged. Like, the idea that he doesn't have to deal with some of these big personalities and the stupid infighting and all of that. The guys are focused on football and playing together and feel like family, and to have that feeling again. I think that's where Pete thrives, and I think he sees the opportunity to really take that a long ways.
And when they do that, they're going to do it with a running game. Go back to last season, the 2017 season. There was no running game. Russell Wilson was your leading rusher. This season with Chris Carson, only 4 teams in NFL history, Adam, have ever had a 1,000-yard rusher, along with 3 other backs with more than 300 yards. So you got Carson with 1,100 yards. Davis had 514 yards. Penny had 419 yards. And Russell Wilson, 376. So only 4 teams have ever done that, to have that many guys with that many rushing yards. And when you put that in perspective of the history of the NFL, that's pretty incredible.
That is pretty incredible. But I thought that if you ran on first down, you've already lost. I think I read an article saying that somewhere.
Yeah.
And somehow by doing that, they won 10 games and made the playoffs. So, yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more of that article a little bit later in the show, I think.
Okay. All right. Very good. Because that ticked me off. Like, that's stats nerds. Like, I love you. And like, sometimes like they're great.
Stats are important. I really like stats.
But a lot of times they do. They just miss the point flat out.
Well, one stat that we were questioning going into this season was with Jimmy Graham, 10 touchdowns going his direction last season. Where were those going to come from? And we saw that it came from the rushing game. One rushing touchdown last season turned into 15 rushing touchdowns this season. 9 with Chris Carson, 4 with Mike Davis, and 2 with Rashad Penny.
Yeah, and that's for the betterment of the team. It was clear that getting Jimmy Graham in the fold and trying to use him as an offensive weapon, as a pass catcher, it just doesn't fit the type of smash mouth football that the Seahawks traditionally play.
Yeah.
Under Pete Carroll. It just flat doesn't fit. And I was excited to try Jimmy. I thought it would work out really well. And no, it absolutely didn't. So you move on. And basically the Seahawks committing to playing George Fant, of all people, at tight end as much as they did.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows you the complete reversal in philosophy there. And at the end of the day, it was a net positive. And it did. It helped redefine the style of Seahawks football and get back to that. And I think that was immensely important to the success of this season.
Some of the past seasons, you looked at the team and you said, where is this team's identity? And what kind of team is it going to be? And we got that answer this year when they had George Fant out there as a 6th offensive lineman and doing some fun stuff like blocking Richard Sherman on the outside for really no reason but to maybe troll him a little bit. Yeah. You had the one play where he nearly picks up a first down. You had in the San Francisco game against the Niners, you had him run like a post route down the middle of the field, and
right,
just some fun stuff that it doesn't necessarily show up unless you're really looking closely for it, but it's kind of fun. You had more fun with this team.
It's funny how much the national press has a difficult time embracing the way that the Seahawks play football. Because they just watched it be successful, and they watched the Ravens kind of do similar things to a degree, like really commit to the rushing game.
Yeah.
And it's funny because for like a 2 to 3 week period there, everybody was like, ooh, nobody wants to see either of these two teams because they play real different than everybody else. Uh-huh. And then the second they lose in the playoffs, well, that antiquated crap never works, blah, 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 blah. It's old school thinking, and you need a frat boy for a coach. He needs to be 12 years old, and you got to throw the ball 5,000 times because it's the new NFL, blah, 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 right?
Yeah, when you say national media, don't you mean like the NFL, the thinking of the NFL as a whole? Because we saw guys that, like with Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury getting a head coaching job, who has never demonstrated any kind of NFL success, but is tied to this new way of offensive thinking. I don't think it's a media perspective. I think it's a perspective that's within the NFL.
I think for the teams that the teams that have traditionally had a hard time trying to figure out who the hell they are, they're the ones that kind of buy into that national media and then act it out. I think the Arizona Cardinals are a perfect example of that. Like, that's an organization that's never really known exactly what they are. And they continue to just flounder because they're the Cardinals. And that's fine. But it's funny to me that way. And I really enjoy the idea that the Seahawks will continue to commit to this running game and this philosophy, because again, the pundits, they can't seem to get it through their thick skull that this is how we're going to play, and it works to the tune of, I saw a mock draft the other day put out by Bleacher Report, and their first round pick, they had some tight end from Alabama who's a pass catching tight end slated to the Seahawks, and like, oh, they can replace Jimmy Graham's lost production and like really integrate. Dude, do you even watch the game?
Yeah.
They desperately don't want us to play this way. Well, guess what? With a draft that is heavily invested on the defensive side of the ball this next year, which I believe they'll do, a real focus on that defensive side of the ball, if they can just improve 5 spots overall in just defensive rankings as a whole, this team is Super Bowl bound. Like, that was the only missing ingredient, was a defense that was a little more consistent.
So what do you see the Seahawks' biggest need then going into the draft, going into this offseason? Where should the team focus on improving in 2019?
Well, a lot depends on what happens with KJ
and
Frank Clark. I think Frank Clark, that deal gets done. I think he remains a Seahawk.
Well, they do everything that they can to keep Frank Clark.
Yeah, they'll just keep Frank Clark. Like they're going to do it.
Yeah.
So that I don't worry about. But the KJ Wright situation, I mean, geez, flip a coin. So let's say KJ stays. And eventually someday the courts get around to sentencing Michael Kendricks. They decide to actually do that.
Yeah, and they put it off till April. Yeah.
Yeah, which would be nice. Like, I wish they wouldn't have delayed that. That sucks.
I tried to find a reason why they delayed it, but
me too.
Couldn't find one.
Nah, just couldn't be bothered. We'll just put that off to April.
Yeah.
Say they keep KJ or Michael Kendricks gets a lesser sentence and they bring him back, whatever it is, right? One of those two options. Then I think what you really focus on this offseason is all defensive backfield. Like just more depth at corner. And whether that's to push Shaq a little bit, whether that's to push T2 a little bit coming up this year, whatever it is, like that's what I want. I want all the focus to be on the DBs.
We'll see you try and re-sign Frank Clark ahead of the franchise tag deadline, and then you can franchise tag Earl Thomas and bring him back.
You got to let Earl Thomas go.
I'm not ready to let him go.
Well, you should be, because he was gone in week, what was that, 4?
Yeah.
Gone forever. He's gone now.
Finished the season leading the team in interceptions.
I understand. I don't want Earl to go either, but it's done. Forever.
All right, fine.
Everything that has a beginning has an end, Brandon.
Well, it does feel like they need some more depth at linebacker. That's kind of been an issue for the last few years.
I don't know. I thought they were fine with depth at linebacker, whether that was Kendricks or Calitro. Or
well, once they had Kendricks, but before they got Kendricks, I mean...
I thought Calitro played fine.
He was okay.
That's what... I mean, he played backup level football.
He's your good backup linebacker, right?
Right.
And Mingo was okay.
And you don't believe Shaquem can grow this offseason?
I think so, too. You know, that's one of the questions you brought up, Shaquille Griffin. And I think with both those guys, with Shaquem making it into the NFL and all the commercials and all the press and all of the things that go along with all the media attention, I think that had an impact on both those guys.
You think, oh, that's an interesting theory. I didn't ever think of it as far as how that would have affected Shaquille.
I think it did, though.
Yeah, that could be.
I mean, it's no longer a focus just on football, like when you're a rookie. Right. And you kind of had that little experience. There's going into your sophomore year. We expected a jump. I don't know if you could say he regressed, but you didn't see the growth that you would expect to see him have in his second year. And I think having his brother on the team and having all that media attention, I think that did play a role.
Yeah, that probably played a role. I think the other thing that played a role is that he was then permanently installed over on the left side.
Yeah, he's the guy there now on that side. And it's his first year on that side.
And there's a half a season of tape out there on him from the previous year. I mean, teams game plan a little bit. They see what you do well and don't.
Yeah,
I think that falls in there. I think the year that you could see him make the biggest amount of growth is this year, and it's that year 3 that a lot of dudes do that. Mm-hmm. And now with a full year under his belt, playing out there as being the number 1 corner out there on the left side, I could see a lot of potential there. But yeah, I just want to see more depth in the corners for sure. You can do that or D-line. You can draft D-lineman all day for me too.
Oh, I'd be more than happy drafting D-line. Pete Carroll's pretty excited about D-line with Rasheem Green, Jacob Martin coming back. I mean, really, this whole rookie class, he had nothing but positive things to say.
I think it's a group that's going to be here for a long time, factoring in. They have special qualities that we love. The punter was phenomenal. Will was terrific starting his season off. We missed the heck out of him, but he's coming back, and we're thrilled to get him back. All the way through the ranks, all the play that we got from Trey. Trey had a fantastic season. Played good all the way through the stretch of the season where you might see a guy get worn down. He wasn't. He fought through it and was very competitive. You could see that Jacob Martin helped us a lot. Rasheem Green will come back and be a big factor, I think, in the competition of it all. He showed tons of good stuff during the course of the season. A couple of the young guys we acquired, Puna, had a great finish to the season, too. Puna's legitimately going to play for starting time when we come back, and he'll be competing to do that. Rashad is going to be a big factor. So it's a really exciting group. And I think the depth of it and the consistency throughout is what's really good about it.
The Seahawks had a good draft this year.
They really did. I mean, that was a big part of them being able to put together the season that they did. That infusion of young, talented guys who are really competing their tails off. I didn't realize he was that high on Poona Ford. That makes me smile a little bit.
Yeah, because going into the last few weeks of the season, it seemed like they could have been playing him more, but they weren't necessarily playing him as much. It almost seems like some reluctance to like Poona Ford.
Yeah, it kind of did. I mean, he almost had to force his way into the rotation, and then maybe they were worried about him hitting the rookie wall towards the end. I don't know.
Well, one guy they're really looking forward to in this next season, and this was something that you actually worried about a little bit, because you're worried about Pete Carroll's kind of falling in and out of love with running backs, and he has some mad love for Rashad Penny.
Man, he's going to be really good. He showed it again the other night. He's going to be a really good player for us, and it gives us a tremendous 1-2 punch, 1-2-3 punch. We got combinations to throw at you, with our guys, and the competition will play that out.
Is he going to be the 1 punch or the 2 punch or the 3 punch this next year? That'll be the storyline to follow.
I could see him legitimately becoming the 2 punch. That'd be a win in his growth going forward. It's going to be tough for me until I see it on the field with him.
Yeah.
I mean, just going back and watching his college stuff and just in all of those things. I mean, he is just a guy that does not run in cluttered spaces well at all. And I don't see the amazing speed everybody seems to think that he has. I don't think he's all that faster than Chris Carson. I think McKissick is faster than him.
Yeah, we didn't see a lot of McKissick either.
I don't know, man. I'll say it for the millionth time. I'm rooting for him to become this magnificent player with these home run hitting abilities that he was touted to have coming out of college. I'm just highly skeptical. We'll see.
Well, where does Pete Carroll think that the team can improve? We hear from the offseason where they're looking to improve. And so let's hear it directly from Pete from his press conference.
I think we have to expect that we're going to make a big jump. Growth-wise, experience-wise. And we had a lot of guys that played for us for the first time that contributed in big ways that we can anticipate really making a big step forward in terms of understanding the game, what it takes, developing what we refer to as leaving here as their mastery of their position and the play of NFL football. We're going to get so much better. I don't see it as something that we didn't do. I think it's something that we're just going to grow towards. And with the leadership that we have and the direction that we're on and the chemistry that we have, I think it's to expect that we have to grow a lot and we have to see things better to avoid the issues that come up. And I mean, they can be in the kicking game, they can be in penalties, they can be on offense, they can be in defense, they can be any part of our game. We have to just clean it up and not give our opponents ways to get an advantage on us. I showed them some examples yesterday on film. I showed them of guys making plays through their experience and their awareness and how you can anticipate growing as a player through the curiosity that it takes and the diligence that it takes and the work ethic that it takes and the time that you got to put in. We got to grow. And so that's why it's all on the up, because everybody knows that that's going to happen and take place. If it'll take us far enough, we'll do some big stuff next year. So
basically they could just improve everywhere.
The comment was interesting because it wasn't looking at any particular position groups and saying, we need to go after another wide receiver. We need to, build the secondary. It was focusing on everybody just getting better. Obviously, as a coach, you should expect that, but I don't know if you can count on it.
No, it's not. We've said this a million times on the show. It's not always a continually linear line of progression to awesomeness.
Yeah.
Like, there's ups and downs. I mean, did Shaq Griffin get significantly better this year? No. He didn't also get significantly worse. I mean, he kind of flatlined, but I mean, not every dude is going to flourish this next year.
Yeah. And Bradley McDougall had an amazing season this year. Is he going to continue to get better, or did we see him top at the top of his game?
You see peak Brad?
Maybe.
I don't know. Or can he just sustain that, which would be good as well. Like, we'd be fine with that. I think the area that I would love to see a little bit more out of, and not that they didn't make strides this year, but boy, I'd love to see the offensive line, specifically right tackle, get better.
You know what I think? I think Jamarco Jones is going to make a difference. He might be your starting right tackle next year.
That was a big injury, man. I don't know.
And if he's not, I think he at least pushes Jermaine. One thing that you can say about Jermaine Ifedi this year is that he was better than the guy that he's been in previous years.
Yeah, he went from like complete dumpster fire to like just a concern every week.
And part of that could have been to having George Fant out there. He had Fant to kind of worry about in terms of competition, and he also had Fant out there to help in some cases.
And I think also, too, the change in scheme helped him quite a bit. I mean, we'll see if Solari can continue to coach him up. One thing that's been kind of made clear with the departure of Tom Cable and then the departure of a few of the draft choices the Seahawks had made over the last couple years at offensive line is that you see Carpenter, once he finally has a change of scenery, he becomes a heck of a player. You see now Glowinski, he moves on to the Colts, and they have a heck of a year with him as the starting right guard.
Yeah.
You see the improvements of players like Ifedi. You see the improvement in technique from an all-pro like Dwayne Brown. You see the difference that he makes with Sweezy and DJ Fluker, bringing them in kind of coaching them up in Solari. You see that difference manifest itself. The problem, clearly now, you can point to on a number of different levels, was Tom Cable.
Yeah.
And so if the Seahawks do go out and spend some draft capital on offensive line this year, I kind of feel good about the idea that they can get better, or that the idea that Ifedi might get better this offseason. It seems possible.
I think experience helps. Having experienced O-linemen, we saw what it looked like when you had nobody out there with any experience. And now they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, too, let's take a look at Ethan Posick's last 3 years. He was playing center in college, comes out, is told to switch positions, and then told to switch positions again and switch positions again. He's played like 3 or 4 different spots along the offensive line in his first 2 years. In his first year, he's trying to learn Coach Cable's scheme, which sucks. So he got bad coaching for a whole, rookie year of his career. Then comes in and has to learn a whole new scheme his second year while still trying to learn a new undefined position. And the philosophy has changed to where now it's more of a running smash mouth football team and you're more of a finesse pass blocker. Man, all those things, they add up and they kind of stack up against you a little bit.
Well, he could be the future center for the team, potentially, too.
There is a potential for that. I don't know. But then again, Joey Hunt was the guy that went in there and played center when Britt couldn't.
Little Joey Hunt, man. I like having him as a backup dude. Just tries real hard.
And not only that, but it wasn't extremely noticeable when he was in there.
No, it wasn't like, oh, Hunt's in there. It was more like, oh, Hunt? Really? They had Hunt in there for all that time?
Yeah, okay.
All right. And that's how you want it to be.
Exactly.
Well, one area where Pete Carroll wanted to improve desperately was with taking care of the football. It's all about the ball. And it was all about the ball this year for the Seahawks. We got back to leading the league in turnover differential, plus 15, ahead of teams like Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles Rams, and New England. And, how about that? All 4 of those teams made the playoffs, being on the plus side in turnovers toward the top of the league. And only 11 giveaways by the Seahawks. Only 2 teams in NFL history have coughed the ball up less, and that was the 2010 Patriots and the 2011 49ers, who only had 10 giveaways. So up toward historic levels for giving up the football.
Well, I think Pete Carroll and company and Ken Norton Jr., they all figured out that in this day and age of football, you're going to get torched up and down the field. And basically, the only way to create a stop, hardly, is to punch the ball out. I mean, it just becomes basically the number one thing that you're teaching in practice every single day. And you saw every guy, if it wasn't mission critical for him to make the tackle right there, they're willing to give up the missed tackle and have him progress a little further down the field if you're taking a chance to get the ball.
Right. What's a few extra yards if you're taking a chance at potentially a game-changing turnover? when you look at the number of teams that are on the plus side, it's not just the Seahawks, it's giving other teams the opportunity. That's where they've gotten their wins.
Absolutely.
It was a big factor, and good to see the Seahawks getting back to that. Now, go back to touchdowns a little bit, and Jimmy Graham. We also lost Paul Richardson in this last offseason.
Who?
Paul Richardson, the guy who left the team and got a huge contract from Washington, and everybody's like, oh, how are we going to replace those 6 touchdowns and all those plays along the sidelines that Paul Richardson had last year? Well, I'll tell you how the Seahawks got over it. Tyler Lockett went from 2 touchdowns to 10. He kind of replaced the production of Doug Baldwin that he had last year, because Baldwin, with his injuries, he dropped down to 5 touchdowns. But Jerron Brown, David Moore, both each with 5 touchdowns. And when you talk about guys that you expect to grow, especially in their third year, David Moore could be one of those guys. Tyler Lockett, you expect him to continue to be the receiver that he showed that he could be this year. Hopefully get to 1,000 yards, maybe coming up just 35 yards short this year, but having Doug Baldwin.
So he had 1,000 yards.
He had 1,000 yards. He's not going to, when you talk about the Seahawks 1,000-yard receivers, though, he's not going to be in that category because he came in under.
Unless you really looked at it and you're like, oh, he pretty much had 1,000 yards.
Yeah, pretty much. Tight ends Nick Vannett, Ed Dickson, Will Dissly all combined for 8 touchdowns together. So, yeah, they got the ball spread around to lots of different guys.
Yeah, because when you have a franchise quarterback, he'll make pretty much anybody a legitimate receiver. And then if you have guys who are legitimate receivers like Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett, they look amazing.
I don't know. Is Russell Wilson really that great? I mean, he couldn't even throw for more yards than Michael Dixon punted for.
He made Pete Prisco say he was wrong.
He's finally arrived. Pete Prisco could admit that he was wrong.
Yeah, that's a big thing. You get that guy to admit that he's wrong? Like, you have to be pretty damn good. And I kind of look at that receiving core, and I like who they have there. I mean, Jerron Brown, it's kind of an interchangeable piece to me. David Moore kind of faded down the stretch for whatever reason. We didn't see a lot of him. But, yeah, he's a guy that I'm looking at for next year and thinking that he could be a big bonus to this offense moving forward. Somebody I'm far more excited about than I ever was excited about Paul Richardson.
Well, and he was a guy that through the first half of the season, you were saying, yeah, this is the guy. And he trailed off toward the latter part of the season. And they weren't really going his direction as much. But I could see him getting, working his way back up into that role. Like you said, it's not a steady progression toward awesome. But he is making that progression.
Oh, and that was his first year in the NFL playing those kind of minutes and, playing all those games.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough on a guy. I mean, it's an adjustment that you have to make.
Well, looking ahead to the 2019 season, there's some people that aren't all excited about this run game, but listening to Pete Carroll, that's the direction they're going to go to. Schottenheimer's not going anywhere. Pete Carroll's not going to go anywhere. Russell Wilson's not going anywhere. And they still have Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. And that's where this team is going to look to build around on offense.
It's all out there for us. And we have a formidable running attack because of the guys up front, the mentality that we're going at it with, and the running back crew. This is an excellent room. Chad Morton's coaching now. He's got guys that can do all kinds of different things. So we know that's a great strength. And we have a quarterback that you can absolutely count on. He doesn't turn the football over. He makes big plays. He throws touchdown passes. He can control the whole game now. This year was the year that Russ really took a step forward in control of what's happening across the board, run past the whole thing. He's able to change plays. He did it on the goal line to score the touchdown. I mean, there's multiple examples of that. We've just taken a big jump forward, and we need to capitalize on that and get better at all aspects of that because we got to get great at what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely the potential to do that. The only thing that, again, I want to see them change going into the offseason and thoughts and things to work on is just in-game adjustments.
Yeah.
And not being so stubborn to stick to whatever it is your game plan was initially coming into the game. So we'll see if that's something that they can do. But really in that playoff loss to the Cowboys, that was literally the only thing that really held them back.
So does this have a similar feeling to you to the 2012 season? Because in some ways, it's maybe just because I've heard it repeated over and over, and you kind of hear the optimism in the team. But I think back to the 2012 season and that defense that we had going into 2013, we knew that we already had something special and that they were coming back and that they're going to be even better. When I look at the 2018 Seahawks, it's not so much on the defensive side as the offensive side of the ball, where we can look and say, well, here's a team that scored the second most points in franchise history with 428. And you have Russell Wilson and Chris Carson, and Rashad Penny and Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett. You have all those pieces, and you have an offensive line that's coming together. I feel like there's more optimism to look at on the offensive side of the football really than the defensive side. And maybe that's where it could be similar in terms of optimism, but I don't know if I have quite that feeling like it's a Super Bowl caliber offense as I did from 2012 to 2013, where I knew it was a Super Bowl caliber defense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think you hit that spot on. The offense, no, it doesn't. Well, I mean, it does feel like a Super Bowl caliber offense, but it doesn't seem like an offense that is capable of just going out there and winning a Super Bowl on its own.
Yeah. It needs the complementary pieces like the turnovers from the defense and a defense to play well enough.
I'll put it to you this way. The offense this season does not give me the same feeling of potential greatness that the defense of 2012 gave me coming out of that season, right?
Right.
But the defense from this season, the 2018 season, it doesn't feel as abysmal as the offense did from the 2012 season, even though Russ had a decent year as a rookie.
Yeah.
You could see flashes and things like that. I don't know. I believe in the ability of the Seahawks to get the defense together a little bit more going forward than I did necessarily the Seahawks putting it together offensively going forward. I mean, because Russ had a nice rookie year, but you're like, yeah, he's a rookie and you never really know and all that stuff. Like, you kind of count on this coaching staff being a defensive coaching staff and being able to build that side of the ball, where I didn't really necessarily have that faith in the coaching staff to do that to the offensive side of the ball back in 2012.
I guess the similarity then is that you're coming back with a playoff caliber team.
I would say the difference is that this team feels like it has a potential to be more balanced than the teams of the past.
All right, Adam, one thing I want to get into before we get into the second half of the show is look at some of these contracts where guys majorly outperform their contracts versus some of the underperforming players. And I have a list here. Why don't we start with some of the underperformers? Because some of these players are going to move on. Some of these players we think have really already moved on. And that's where there could be some spending ability in the offseason to make up for some of the deficiencies in the team. And when I look at underperformers, the number one guy on this list is one of those guys who's already moved on, because you paid $6.8 million to Cam Chancellor and he didn't play a single game this season. So that's going to be off the books. Number two, Earl Thomas. He only played 4 games this last season, $8.5 million. We expect he's going to be moving on.
He will be moving on.
This other one is questionable, but KJ Wright, in there for 5 games. And when he was in there for those 5 games, he was a huge contributor. But $7.2 million for 5 games, it puts you in the underperforming column.
Yeah, it does.
I don't like putting guys in there for injury, but just when in terms of value, contract value.
Yeah. I mean, not that he's a bad guy, not that he's a bad player or anything like that, but just can't be on the field. Well, that's a problem.
Nico Thorpe, one of those guys, he played the most games out of all the guys on this list, but $1.6 million contract for Nico Thorpe this year. Maybe didn't see the value that we'd seen in past seasons from Nico.
I mean, he suited up, right?
Yeah.
And he was available to play?
Yeah. For 3/4 of the season.
Okay.
In terms of positional value and added to the team, it's 1.6, but 1.6 they could probably spend on another player where they could get more out of.
Maybe.
Deion Jordan, also there, $1.9 million, played 12 games. Didn't quite see the production from Deion this year.
Yeah, I mean, $1.9 million, dude. Like, I mean, the fact that he played in any games at all, like, you're kind of like, okay, you kind of got your value out of that.
Where's your cutoff then?
$5 million. Like, somebody's making like legit money. I mean, because we can all agree that 1.5 million, 1.9, all of that is just, it's tiddlywinks.
Well, in terms of guys that were making over 5, other than KJ and Earl, I mean, I guess Doug, but I still think in terms of the production that Doug gave versus his salary, I think that that doesn't bother me.
Well, no, it didn't bother you because he could have just as easily shut it down for the majority of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got every dollar's worth of Doug Baldwin this year.
Right.
Like, there was nothing more he could have done.
So unless you add up like the running back trio of CJ Prosise, Trey Madden, and JD McKissick, who combined for almost $2 million, that was disappointing.
Was it? They were there just in case.
I don't know. You were happy about Trey Madden and CJ Prosise and how they played on the field this year? CJ Prosise's 22 receiving yards and -1 rushing.
Look, I told you he's getting cut. Like, what else do you want?
Well, let's look at the guys who have outperformed their contracts. And
yeah, you're getting all mad because I'm shooting down all these like tiddlywink contracts. I'm like, no, like basically, if you're available in any sense, you're not a bust and you didn't underperform your contract. You're mad that only a couple guys, quote unquote, underperformed.
I'm not mad.
Oh, okay.
I had to work hard to go beyond number 3, Adam.
Well, you had the time.
Now, finding guys who outperform their deals, that was easy. This was an easy list to come up with. Number 1, Frank Clark, $943,000, 14 sacks, most by a Seahawks player since Patrick Kearney had 14.5 back in 2007.
Like, apparently with no elbows for most of the year.
No, so. Yeah, and saying he played at 60% this year.
See, here's going back to the Action Green thing. Like, he blew out one of the CLs in the Action Green game.
I don't see how that's a negative.
You need your CLs.
Did he?
Well, can you imagine what he'd do with the CLs? Did you even know there were elbow CLs to injure? Because I didn't.
I didn't know there were CLs in your elbows.
Yeah, I thought that was just a knee thing, but it makes sense.
Right. They're limbs.
Yeah, when I saw the first tweet and he's like, he played with 2 torn UCLs, I was like,
where's the UCL?
UCL is that?
Yeah, apparently you have those. And thank goodness he was only playing at 60% because now maybe we could afford to pay him this offseason.
Dude, he's still going to get a monster deal. Like, I mean, it's not going to. Yeah, that doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, he'll get an even more monster deal if he's getting 20 sacks going into his offseason.
Maybe.
He had a good year. You know who else had a good year? Chris Carson.
Yeah.
$555,000 for your 7th round running back.
That's value. There's no doubt about that.
First 1,000-yard rusher since Marshawn Lynch. Number 3, Tyler Lockett, $2 million this year.
Man, I said it when they re-signed him. Like, the whole thing, that was a steal. That was John Schneider. I'm looking for the day that the police show up at the VMAC and haul him off for larceny, because that was a steal.
Yeah, $2 million was his base salary. Obviously, he got a big signing bonus when he signed his contract, but still, man, holy smokes. Jaron Reed, $900,000 for your interior defensive tackle, first guy to get 10 plus sacks since John Randall Cortez Kennedy. Pay Jaron Reed going into his final year of his deal. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
You think he's going to get worse?
I don't think so.
If you have an interior D lineman getting 10 plus sacks, you don't let that guy get away.
But we've also seen, too, like, you pay big money to an interior D lineman, you know, whether that's Watt or Sue or Donald or things like that. It really hamstrings you going down the stretch, you know?
No, well, that's why you try and get him paid now going into the last season of his contract, because then you can kind of spread out that value over 3 to 4 years.
Maybe. It all depends on the kind of number he's looking for.
Yeah, that's true. And then I paired 2 guys together at number 5, Trey Flowers and Shaq Griffin. $480,000 for Trey Flowers, $588,000 for Shaquille Griffin. 2 guys that started the entire year. Trey Flowers, 15 games as a starter. Shaquille Griffin, 16 games as a starting corner. So for a little over $1 million, you had starting corners for the entire season. They were good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's overperforming. Those are tiddlywink contracts right there.
See? Both those guys for under Nico Thorpe's contract. That's why Nico Thorpe made the list.
Oh, geez, Louise. So my philosophy is actually really doing you a favor on the overperforming list.
Maybe.
Because if you make under $5 million and you play like as a decent starter, like you've overperformed.
And then at number 6, I lumped all these guys in together. J.R. Swayze, $800,000. DJ Fluker, $800,000. Jermaine Ifedi, $1.2 million for base salaries.
Yeah, I'm going to be super curious to see what the market brings for Swayze and Fluke and how much the Seahawks are willing to pay.
Yeah.
That's probably the most interesting story of the offseason, the most interesting contract story, followed by Frank Clark, followed by Jaron Reed, and then followed by Russell Wilson's situation. But we know what the main story is going to be.
It's going to be Russell Wilson.
All day and all night, and how he doesn't want to be there.
Even with Frank Clark out there. Maybe that benefits Seattle with Frank Clark. That the Russell Wilson contract thing is distracting everything else that's going on.
I don't know, man.
It's going to be annoying.
God, it's going to suck.
I mean, we've already seen the articles of, is Russell Wilson going to be the first guy to make $35 million? So what if he is?
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. But, I mean, the idea that there's some drama as if they're not going to pay Russell Wilson, like, give me a break.
You start to worry a little bit when you get to the end of next season if he's not under contract.
Dude, he's not going to get to the beginning of this season without a contract.
Yeah, they locked him up before the final year last time.
Correct. When it was going to be impossible to do a deal and Russell Wilson was going to play him out and take him to the cleaners. And it's going to be the same exact stupid articles. You might as well, if you're a writer for these websites, you might as well just go back to the contract year last time or the year before the contract year. Just take all those articles, hit copy, paste, change the dates and call it good. Because it's going to be the same drivel.
Your off season is super easy. You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that does it for the look back at 2018. Now we're going to be spending the rest of the offseason looking ahead to 2019. And what do you say we get back at it after the break?
Sounds like a plan, man.
Getting into the second half of the show, the Tampa Bay Seahawks putting on a Pro Bowl tailgate party coming up Sunday, January 27th. At Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. They're going to have raffle prizes. They're going to have food, free hot dogs, free hamburgers to every Seahawks fan wearing their gear to the Pro Bowl. So check out the Tampa Bay Seahawks.
Oh, man, that would be a good time. Like, I would dare you to go and attend that with a frown. It won't be possible because if we know one thing, Brandon, Tampa Bay brings the party.
I don't know if you can find a chapter that's more
party-centric?
Party-centric, right. You're in Florida. You're in Tampa.
Yeah, man.
So check out their Facebook page or just go to seahawkers.org. Find the Tampa Bay area chapter there to get to their website and find all of the information. Well, Adam, we mentioned it at the top of the show. We need to get into some Pick'em League issues here because as I was going down the leaderboard, 12th Hawker Locker, Barb's 44, Jesper Sacco, M. Goldbjerg, Big Dixon Energy, KC Hawk, Jermaine Olay, and Toon Hawk. Rounding out the top 10, Stans Gelbaz, and Onward and Upward. As I was looking over the picks, half of our top 10 picked against the Seahawks. We played the Rams twice this year. Half of the teams in the top 10 picked the Rams in both those games.
For reals?
For reals.
Well, are we not clear speakers? Do we not say exactly how things are? Did we stutter when we mentioned for like the 1,000th time that you cannot pick against the Seahawks in the Pick'em League? They're your team, and we're all picking our team every single week. Was that confusing? Are those difficult instructions? I don't understand where this went afoul, other than you just legit straight up were trying to cheat and thought we wouldn't look. Well, so those picks, I would disqualify them completely. Like, you're gone now.
They could be disqualified. This is in the official rules for the Podcast Pick'em League. It says, sponsor, in its sole discretion, may disqualify any entrant for participating in the contest, refuse to award prizes or points, and require the return of any prizes if entrant engages in any conduct sponsor deems to be improper, unfair, or otherwise adverse to the operation of the contest or detrimental to other entrants. Such improper conduct includes, but is not limited to, 1, picking against the Seahawks. That's the very first one.
So between it being like in writing, if you wanted to go through all the legalese, which I'm sure nobody did.
No.
But, but it was there.
I mean, I don't read my terms and conditions when my iPhone has to update.
You do?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. So, yeah, beyond that, it was mentioned explicitly on the podcast many a time throughout the year. So what do we do about this?
Well, I don't want to kick him out. I feel like we could. I feel like we could disqualify him. But, there's some people in the Ring of Honor that I know are good people. They might have just been trying to...
There's Ring of Honor people who did this?
Yeah, there's Ring of Honor people in this. I know. These are all the feelings that I went through when I looked at the leaderboard. And I said, I wonder if any of these teams picked against the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And then I went through and to find that half of them picked against the Seahawks in games against the Rams.
Wow.
I know. It was super disappointing.
Yeah, that's so what are we going to do then?
Well, I fixed it.
Are we going to take their birthday away?
I fixed it. I changed everybody's picks so that I didn't go beyond the top 10.
Yeah.
But everybody in the top 10, I fixed it. You pick the Seahawks each and every week. You're welcome. Now we have a fair competition going into the last 2 weeks of the Pick'em League.
That's true. Gosh, man. That's highly disappointing, man.
I know.
It feels like cheating.
It did feel like cheating. If you're in second or third place and you pick the Seahawks as you're supposed to the entire season.
Yeah.
And then if a person like that were to lose and then go back and find out that they lost because one of their fellow Ring of Honor members picked against the Seahawks in critical games against the Rams, you would be upset.
Absolutely. We didn't even make everybody take risk picks like we did.
Right.
Like I was looking at it towards I think it was the end of the regular season. I think I was 17 picks out of first.
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
You didn't get all your risk picks wrong.
No, but I probably got 14 of them wrong. Right?
I might have been 50-50.
No way.
I did pretty well with my risk picks.
Well, even if it's 50-50, that's 8 or 9. Like that's a lot.
It's a difference.
Yeah. So like you guys didn't even have to do that and you were cheating. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Like I said, you're still in it. We just leveled the playing field.
They're lucky that you're a more benevolent ruler than I am. That's for sure.
Well, really, it would have been a whole lot more work for me if I would have just taken all those people out of the top 10. Because then I would have had to keep going down the list and reading through everybody's picks.
Oh, yeah, that would have been a nightmare.
I know.
Look what they put you through.
Well, I had the time.
There's that, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, you people know who you are. And do better.
Well, congrats to the wild card weekend winner. I didn't mention Here Goes Nothing, but had 3 of the games correct and correctly picked the Seahawks to win their playoff game.
Right.
Even though it was a loss, 3 picks correct. That's the top, how it should be. And tiebreaker 27 points.
Oh, good for them. I know I was close on that, or should have been.
Yeah, you had 3 games correct.
Right. I can't remember what I picked for points.
I don't think you picked points that week.
Oh, well, that's on me then.
Division round, James Eastwood on the full leaderboard and Zoe on the VIP leaderboard. Got all 4 games in the tiebreaker. Oh, and if anybody goes to the SeahawkersPodcast.com/pick'em page to look at the leaderboard, because for the final prizes, we don't do VIP. It just goes off the full leaderboard. So I took everybody's VIP status off. So that way you get to, well, I put you and I up in the VIP section so you could see that Adam's in the lead by 3 points. But then you can just look at the full leaderboard for who's going to get prizes at the end of the year.
Yeah, man. That Philly game really helped me out in the wild card round. There's no way Philly's going to beat the Bears. Bears go to the Super Bowl.
Well, the Bears almost had it, too.
Yeah, but then they didn't.
I'm not that torn up about it, dude.
Yeah, I missed on the Indy pick last week.
Right.
But to be fair, I didn't put my picks in, and I would have picked the Rams. And you were like, and so you asked me so you could put them in for me after the fact.
Right.
And I mean, I admitted to the Indy loss.
Yeah.
I was like, I would have picked Indy. I was like, I would have picked the Rams. And this was before Pats and Saints.
I think it was right after they kicked off, right?
Right. So I'd already given you those like beforehand. So those were, I still got my picks in, technically beforehand, those games, the Sunday games.
Yeah.
But you were like, I'm not giving you the Rams pick.
I did. I gave you the Rams pick.
All right. Because otherwise I would have said, well, that's fine. I actually picked the Chiefs.
But you do have me by 3, and you would have had me by 0 if you didn't get your picks in this last weekend, but that's okay.
Yeah, man. I've been back and forth all over this country.
Yeah. Who do you got this week?
I think I've got Pats Saints, but I really don't feel good about the Saints pick. I don't like the way they played against Philly. I don't like the way they played going down the stretch of the season. The Rams looked too damn good against the Cowboys. I just can't. I can't pick them.
that's what my concern is going into this week, too, because the Saints, the reason why they beat the Rams the first time is they got up big right away. They had 30 points by the end of the first half.
Right.
That's not the way they've been playing lately.
It's scary. That's a scary game. But then also, too, like, just the Rams haven't been the same team on the road. It'd be interesting to see if that defense can actually show up and shut down Drew Brees and company. I'm not sure they can. I think the Philly defense is better than the Rams defense.
Well, yeah, a lot of teams' defenses are better than the Rams defense.
Right. And I don't know. I don't believe in Jared Goff in a big spot yet.
No.
Sean McVay has only witnessed like 6 playoffs in his lifetime since he's like 4 years old. Just doesn't have any experience.
Well, he can just go to Wade Phillips and say, "Hey, Grandpa Phillips, tell me about what the playoffs were like when the NFL first became a thing."
Yeah, like in 2001. Yeah. God, I can't stand Sean McVay.
I think we're going to have a fun time with Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The Cardinals would have been better off hiring Jim Caldwell. Like, there's a guy who's actually proven success in the NFL. He took Matt Stafford from a guy who was okay to having a couple good years. He left. Matt Stafford goes back down again. And they're just as much in terms of the spark plug category. Cliff Kingsbury.
Better looking than Caldwell. And Caldwell and McVay aren't best friends. They're not BFFs, Brandon.
Oh, I know. God, Caldwell didn't have McVay to vouch for him. That's part of the problem.
I am hoping so hard that the Cardinals trade Josh Rosen somewhere and go ahead and draft Kyler Murray, number 1. Do that. Do that sooner. Like that little rumor. I mean, it is a rumor. I'm not sure that that's even on their radar, but I would love to see that.
I don't see him doing that.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying Rosen's going to be great either, but I know for sure that Kyler Murray is not going to be good.
Oh, did you watch more tape?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, my concern for him, and this is absolutely nothing to do with his size, because I don't think that matters in today's day and age of football.
Yeah.
He was throwing over full-grown linemen who were blocking full-grown linemen. That wasn't a problem. He could see the field. Like, that's not an issue. I love his speed. He's super fast.
Oh, sure.
His accuracy's decent, but he does not throw the ball well when under pressure, and I don't see anywhere where he proved that he throws into tight windows well.
I can see that.
And that's what, I mean, sure, he can hit a wide open dude. Congratulations. I can hit a wide open dude.
Well, I think when we were talking the other day, you mentioned Seneca Wallace. And you can be Seneca Wallace and have speed and be able to throw accurately and hit wide open guys and be a good system quarterback.
Right.
But to be one of the tops in the league, that would be, I don't know if he quite has it.
That's the difference between just a guy, like quote unquote Sam Bradford. I guess I'm just going to hate on all the Oklahoma quarterbacks. So, like,
hey, we've never done super well in terms of quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, that's true.
Baker, I think, is probably our best hope.
So far, yep. So, yeah, the idea that, like, Sam Bradford can go out there and as long as everything is on schedule and in rhythm, he can tear you up. There's no doubt about it. But that's what separates the guys who are just a guy from the Russell Wilsons and the Drew Breeses and the Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady's. Like, they still perform better than league average when under pressure. Yeah. Now, is it as good as they perform usually, like, not under pressure? No. But they still perform above league average under pressure. And I don't see that ability with Kyler Murray.
That's something, though, that I feel like, whereas with accuracy, you're generally not going to get more accurate as a quarterback going to the NFL. Whereas I think under pressure, that's something that you could develop with experience.
Yeah. And in the accuracy thing, I think in general that statement is correct. I think your accuracy numbers can look very different than college, depending on, you know, who you play with, level of competition, all that stuff. I think that could definitely change your completion percentage.
Oh, yeah. And I wasn't even measuring accuracy by completion percentage. I was just measuring it, you know, can you fit it in a tight window?
Right, and I think, exactly. So Josh Allen is an amazing example of this, right? Mm-hmm. Remember, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn at 2 feet, according to everybody?
Because his completion percentage was so low.
Right, and then he would go back and he'd watch, and you're like, well, his receivers stink. You know, he said there was a million different reasons why. And occasionally you'd uncork one, no doubt about it. Like, you know, just throw off his back foot and do something stupid. It's like, well, that's fixable. Just don't do that. And you saw him coming to the NFL, and do that very few times. I mean, he did it a few times right out of the gate, and then he learned his lesson right quick. And you know what nobody's talking about is Josh Rosen's terrible accuracy. He throws the prettiest ball in football. He's so accurate. And guess who finished with a higher completion percentage their rookie season?
Yeah, Josh Allen.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, completion percentage is not the end-all, be-all when it comes to actual accuracy.
Wait, are you telling me stats people, they have to look at other things besides just the numbers?
You know, it's funny you bring that up.
Well, I do want to get there in the do better and better life, but we do have some comments from the flock this last week. No new flockers, but we do have some emails.
That's fine. It's the end of the season. Everybody can kind of put a bow on this season. Yeah. I'm not mad about no new flockers this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Victor in Palmer, Alaska says, so I thought about who Chris Carson is like, and I came up with Bo Jackson. What do you guys think?
Ooh.
Now, talk about speed. Chris Carson does not have Bo Jackson speed.
No. Sorry. That's a bridge too far.
Yeah.
But look, as far as just maybe the way they look in pads and kind of carry themselves, I can see it-ish.
Yeah, in terms of build, maybe.
Yeah.
Garrett emails in, says season is way too short. Although I already feel myself slipping into the offseason depression, I can at least look forward to the show and keep me in the loop. In September, I didn't think 10 wins was possible. I find myself already thinking the same for next year. I hope they get some cornerback help, linebacker and lineman in the draft with one special explosive player on offense. Russ needs help with the O-line. This year's strategy is pick up a vet in free agency and then sign some young talent. We just watched Baldwin officially slip into the wide receiver 2 position and Lockett take a commanding lead to WR1. Carson and Penny are legit, and I can't wait to watch Penny develop into a 1,000-yard rusher next year. Got to pay Clark, KJ, Reed on defense. Pete and Shoddy both clearly did a great job on the season. I couldn't be happier to have both those guys coaching us into the playoffs again. I know this is a long post, but I had to get it off my chest so I can move into the offseason. Looking so forward to a year-long wrap-up show. Brandon and Adam, thank you for all you guys do, especially in the offseason. Not all heroes wear capes, but I hope you guys do. If you made it through this whole thing, I'm just about finished. Now, go Hawks.
Go Hawks, Garrett. You know, kind of listening back to that, and as you recap the whole season, I mean, the number one thing that stood out to me, it doesn't surprise me he didn't think the Seahawks would go 10-6 somehow. It's almost as if he would pick them to lose less games. I don't know. Just a thought. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see Penny break out like he predicts. I mean, that'd be awesome. 2 1,000-yard rushers in a season, Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. Yes, please. That works for me.
That'd be fine.
Yeah. Just probably not going to happen is all.
No, that's a lot to ask for 2 guys to be that high.
Yeah. But unless he wants Chris Carson to, run less.
I don't know if I see Tyler Lockett as being a number 1 guy. I mean, in terms of where they fell out in terms of this year, yes, that's where Tyler Lockett was the number 1 guy. But I still, going into the draft, it wouldn't shock me if they went wide receiver first pick.
No, that wouldn't stun me either. And I wouldn't even be upset about that, I don't think.
No.
Depending on the receiver.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little like them drafting a running back in the first round last year. It's like, I wasn't opposed to them drafting a running back, just not that one.
Yeah. Sonny Michel looked pretty good this year.
I know. So did Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb went before our pick, right?
No, he went after.
Who was still on the board?
Everybody, except for Saquon Barkley.
Oh, that's right.
And I think it's good to have guys with different talents. If both guys are gonna be healthy, it's good to have some, the thunder and lightning.
Sure. Yeah.
Instead of just thunder and thunder.
You go back to the Reggie Bush and Lendale White.
Yeah, Lendale White even had a cup of coffee in Seattle after his days with the Titans.
Sounds like that's about all he did when he was in the NFL, was just have donuts and cups of coffee.
Scott, the beer man in Spokane, says, what is your take on what they do for kicker? Keep Sebastian? I think he's pretty good, but he is aging and more prone to injuries. Anyway, Seahawks exceeded my expectations, and it was a great season. Imagine how much better they will be next year.
Yeah, man. I'm sure Scott, the beer man's enthusiasm. I think we're done with Seabass. We talked about it a little on the last show. They signed that kid to a futures contract that was kicking for the Rams.
Ficken.
Now, The only reason I think I don't want Fickens as the kicker, like it's already kind of built into the name for you to cuss him out.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, frickin' Fickens. Like it fits too well.
Yeah. Get better at kicking.
So I don't know. I'm a little sketched out by that.
If they did bring back Seabass, it wouldn't be the end of the world, though.
No. He's
okay.
It's not so much that I distrust his kicking ability. It's just he's old. He can't. He's not. I worry about his health so much.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those guys that like in a big spot, all of a sudden you'd be like, oh, Seabass isn't in because he hurt himself sneezing, and you wouldn't be that shocked.
Well, maybe if they just kicked it out of the end zone every time instead of most of the time.
I'm not sure he has that ability.
I think he does.
Okay.
I think they got a little too cute with their kickoffs this last year.
Yeah, with the new rules and everything?
Yeah. Just kick it out of the back. Let them have it at the 25 and keep moving.
Yeah, that feels better, doesn't it? Yeah, leave that pinning them inside stuff to, the
punt
Aussie.
Team. Yeah. JC on YouTube says, and this seems like a comment from last year, we need John Schneider to start drafting smart and quit taking stupid risks, rolling the dice. Schneider had 2 Pro Bowl offensive tackles staring him in the face, and he takes the smallest need for the Hawks in defensive end with Malik McDowell. Get up to speed, John. You screwed our draft for years over this dumb mistake.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, the knucklehead factor is hard to measure. I mean, out of all the intangibles, right? That when you draft a guy, like they never envisioned Malik McDowell getting on a 4-wheeler and busting up his head.
Yeah, you can't put that on John.
You can to a degree.
A small degree.
Yeah, but that's tough. That's tough blame. And then especially after looking at this draft class, I mean, you brought it up earlier. I mean, really hit a home run almost every step of the way.
I think they learned from the Malik McDowell situation, and they picked a lot of just good dudes.
Yeah.
That were low on the knucklehead factor scale.
Turns out if you keep drafting quality character and smart players, you can continue to compete for years and years and years. Patriots.
Ugh.
Wait, what's wrong with the Patriots? Do you get the heebie-jeebie creepies over the Patriots too?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm sick of hearing about them.
Really?
Yeah, I get it. They're good. They've been good for 2 decades now.
Yeah.
I'm ready for them to go away now.
I guess.
Swishes and Kush on YouTube says Russ doesn't need to take a discount, but with the kind of guy he is, I hope he does. It's simple math because that's more money to help construct the roster. On another note, I say it again, keep Mike Davis. We need him. He helps Carson too.
Yeah, I think you could keep Mike Davis if he wants to keep playing for, a small amount like he did this year. That'd be fine. I think that type of running back you can find as an undrafted free agent every single year after the draft. I don't know. I don't know that he's mission critical to keep.
Well, and that might be why he doesn't command a whole lot on the open market too.
I mean, that's kind of the position as a whole, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Le'Veon Bell's going to be a free agent this year, and I don't know who the hell is going to back the Brinks truck up for him.
Somebody will.
You think?
Yeah, I do think.
I don't think so.
I could see San Francisco trying to make a push for both Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, and it not working out well for him.
Well, that feels about right. I mean, I could see that, but I don't see that. I don't know that the market is going to make it so that a team has to overpay for Le'Veon. I don't think he's going to be getting some mega offers from a bunch of different teams.
That'll be something fun to watch, though.
Dude, a guy that with drug suspensions up the yin-yang, an attitude problem, and then just sat out for a whole year and gave the organization the bird. Now, when I go back and I look at it from his perspective, I get what he's doing. Like, I'm not mad about it. But if I'm an NFL owner, I'm not paying that guy. For what, a running back? A running back.
Yeah, he's really good out of the backfield, though.
When James Conner can come in and basically do the exact same thing, that doesn't look good for Le'Veon. Now, would I be more apt to put up with the behavior and give up assets and stuff for somebody like Antonio Brown? Yeah. Mainly just because of the position.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, do I want the Seahawks to do that? Oh, hell no.
You don't want the Seahawks going after Antonio Brown?
No, not in any way, shape, or form. No, negative. 0%.
I don't know. Jason La Canfora seems to think it'll happen, which means it won't happen.
No, that makes sense.
And has there been a guy that's made more money in the league this last year off of making wrong speculation than Jason La Canfora?
I don't know, but I think he needs to have a seminar on this because I need to take that seminar and start duplicating his success.
How to be wrong frequently and often, but make huge money while doing it.
That'd be great.
I think that's a good transition to get into Do Better this week, Adam.
All right. My Do Better this week, Brandon, is for Nike.
Yeah.
Because Nike is now trying to make the world a place to where you have one more thing to do with an app on your freaking phone that you don't need to do with an app on your freaking phone. I don't need more things to do with my phone. I don't need that in my life. I got enough. More than enough.
Tell me that this is because they're taking the Reebok pumps idea to the next level, and now you can pump your shoes with your phone wearing Nikes instead of Reeboks.
Very close. The Nike has, and this actually, I think, will excite you in some way because what Nike has done is they have come out with a brand new basketball shoe called the Adapt BB, and the BB stands for basketball. And you know what the main feature of this shoe is? The laces lace themselves and adapt your foot as it swells or contracts or whatever.
Whoa.
Blah, 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 blah.
These are like Back to the Future shoes.
They're like Back to the Future shoes. But you have to control them with an app on your phone. You know what? I don't have to. I can bend over and just tie them tighter. Maybe loosen them up. And I don't have to worry about whether or not I have 5% battery life or whether the update is correct on my app or if my shoes need to be updated. Screw this. This is going to be an absolute disaster. It needs to go away. Nike, do better.
You're thinking of this all wrong.
No,
you're all wrong because see, to get to the Back to the Future shoes, you need the 1.0 version.
I got to buy a new phone because my shoes aren't compatible with the iPhone 14. You know that's coming.
See, that was something they didn't explore in Back to the Future too.
Right.
You just had the shoes.
And then you press the button, they laced up. That I can almost be okay with. But then again, now your shoes need to be charged. So that's a whole nother thing.
You get solar panel shoes. See, again, I go back. This is version 1.0. This is building toward greatness.
This is building towards disaster. Wait until your shoes are controlled by AI and you can't even control your feet anymore.
Can I just tell my shoes where I want to go and they'll take me there?
Yeah, it's called your brain. You just tell your feet, move this way, and then your shoes follow. It's amazing.
That would be fun, though, to be able to plug your jogging route into your shoes and then you just go for a ride.
Oh, that like totally defeats the entire purpose of running.
6 years in, I know how to push your buttons.
I hate this. I hate these shoes so much. And then not only that, but now they're making Jason Tatum warm last night, I think, for the first time. The Boston Celtics phenom. Don't do that.
It's so he can have his phone on the bench.
Don't. God.
I need this, coach. I need to be able to adjust my laces.
How else am I supposed to get my shoes to work? Why does everybody hate laces so much? Like, have you ever been like, gosh, dang, this laces thing is a real problem in my life. After the age of about 3, don't you kind of have that solved?
I tell you how I solve it. I find that sweet spot of where you lace up your shoes and you can still slip your foot in and still slip your feet out without having to tie them. That's where I'm at in my life.
It breaks down the back of your shoes.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a trade-off I'm willing to accept.
I don't know, man.
You know what happens when you break down the back of your shoes? You buy new ones.
Yeah, so you gave premature wear to your shoes because you're too lazy to deal with laces?
Yeah. How's that a problem?
I guess it's not if you're from America.
How long do you need your shoes to last?
Until they don't last no more.
Okay.
I don't buy a new... so my pair of boots, right? My hiking boots, I wear them to work every single day. I wear them like... They are like the pair of shoes that I wear, short of my Chaco sandals in the summer here and there.
Yeah.
It's like 99% of the time, whether I'm hiking, biking, anything, except for going for a run or being on the river, I'm in my boots. Okay?
Right.
They last me 3 years.
So I maybe get one less year out of them.
Do you wear them every single day for everything?
No, because I have winter boots and then I have summer shoes. But still, I was factoring that in a little bit.
Okay, I don't know, man.
My do better this week is for Steven Ruiz of For the Win, USA Today's publication. And his headline, Brian Schottenheimer is still trying to establish the run weeks after the Seahawks season ended. Which is a funny headline. I'll give him the credit for the funny headline. It belongs in The Onion, not USA Today or Deadspin. Maybe Steven's trying to lobby to be a Deadspin writer.
Maybe, but I'm all for headlines going sarcastic as a whole.
You're okay with that?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it could get to be too much. Like, we don't need everybody trying to be it. Like, that's why I think it belongs. Deadspin's good at it.
Yeah. Onion's
good at it. I don't need regular USA Today publications being good at it.
Yeah. And they usually don't use italics in a headline. And that's what you'd need to be sure everybody understood it was sarcasm.
Well, what this article covers is it covers Brian Schottenheimer's interview on 710 ESPN, where he is asked about his approach through the offseason. And I have a couple problems with the article, but it starts out fine. He quotes Brian Schottenheimer saying, the mentality that we believe in is being physical. That doesn't mean we have to run the ball every time. It doesn't mean that. It means that we're going to be physical. It's the way that we run block. It's the way we run routes. It's Russell Wilson standing in the pocket. It's the way we pass protect. And the writer says, okay, nothing wrong here. Being physical is good. Football is a physical sport after all. And he goes back to another Schottenheimer quote, says, for the play caller, you have an identity of what you want to do. We obviously want to be a balanced team, but we know we need to establish the run. And this is where the writer says, and there are the magic words, establish the run. Schottenheimer was so fixated on establishing the run in Dallas that he seemed to forget that he had an all-pro quarterback at his disposal. And already in this article, I can tell that facts really aren't that important to Steven.
Or really only one fact, like one stat, is important to him. And then the rest of it, whatever.
Well, okay, there's the stat of running versus passing. But there's also the fact that Russell Wilson's not an all-pro quarterback. Now, he's an all-pro talent. He was one vote short of being second team all-pro last season. But Russell Wilson's never earned all-pro honors.
That's a little nitpicky, but okay.
I don't know. Facts, nitpicking in news stories. That's kind of important.
Well, okay. All right. Continue.
But yes, establish the run. That's another sticking point, too, with the writer, apparently. But
well, there's this newfound war on the phrase establish the run. Like that seemed to happen this year.
It's happened last offseason.
Yeah. The analytics guys somehow got mad about the idea that people still wanted to run the football because it was bad for their fantasy football team. And so they decided to come up with a way to attack that. And here's the thing, he was just saying, or kind of brings up the idea that when they run the ball on first down, they have all this lesser success, right?
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. The team scored the second most points in franchise history, right?
Yeah.
So if they did that, somehow what he was doing overall seemed to work in some way. Just going to go out on a limb there. And also, he must not have remembered when the Pro Bowl quarterback, Russell Wilson, last year was running for his life all the time, is because the opposing teams didn't respect the run at all. And so they could just pin their ears back against poor pass blockers and come after him every single down. So now, sure, you may fail, quote unquote, on some runs here and there by actually going out there and establishing the run, but you keep him off Russell Wilson's back for half a second, so when he does have his passing opportunities, he's not running a freaking scribble play, and he can step back up into the pocket and throw strikes to Tyler Lockett and have a perfect passer rating.
What you're saying is maybe, I don't know why that isn't obvious to some people.
Because you're not throwing the ball every single down like Hottie McVay.
Newsflash, Brian Schottenheimer isn't Hottie McVay. And when he was asked what went wrong in the game against the Cowboys, the writer feels like the answer should have been obvious, that the Seahawks ran the ball too much. But that he wasn't happy with Schottenheimer's response and saying, because Schottenheimer pointed at being so poor on third downs. And so the writer says, here's a thought. How about avoiding third down altogether instead of trying to get into third and manageable with conservative calls on first and second down? Avoid third down altogether in the game. That's how you win games, obviously.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Do people forget what happened in the first two games of the season? Do we need to go back and watch the Seahawks game against the Bears and the Seahawks game against the Broncos over again? You remember that, right?
I'm aware. And yes, people seem to forget that. They seem to forget the whole previous season. where we became a pass-heavy team and the disaster that turns out to be. Like, for the way that the Seahawks are designed to play. Like, that doesn't work. It doesn't work with Russell Wilson's game when you don't have the type of elite offensive line to protect. It's kind of maddening, man, that people have such disdain for the run.
Well, he gets into it even more in this article. It says the Seahawks have yet to evolve with the rest of the sport, and the numbers bear that out. And this is when he points to the 538 article that looked at the statistics from this past year, and it pointed out that the Seahawks, in 2018, there was no three-play sequence that Seattle favored more than run, pass. The Seahawks called run, pass 26% of the time, a rate 10 percentage points higher than the league average. Yet, despite the high frequency with which Carroll and offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer used the pattern, they were not successful with it. Just 41.2% of their rush pass sequences ended in, quote, success. Meanwhile, on three-play sequences where the Seahawks started with a pass and mixed in a run afterward, they were successful 88.9% of the time, 71.4% of the time when they went pass rush, and 50% when they went pass rush pass.
What happened when they chose paper, rock, or scissors? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's a lot of different permutations there. And sure, they went rush, pass more than any other team. They also had more rushing yards than every other team. So that seems like success. Also, like I said earlier, the second highest scoring offense in the history of the Seattle Seahawks. Like, people seem to forget that, like, ultimately what success means is points on the freaking board.
And that's why I'm confused by this one sentence in the article where Steven says, unfortunately, the numbers disagree. The Seahawks established the run at any cost approach did prevent the team from scoring. As 538's data proves, it ultimately cost them their season. How did this approach prevent them from scoring? Where did the Seahawks rank in terms of points scored in the NFL this season?
6th.
Number 6. Now, the Chiefs, Rams, and New Orleans were all up over 500 points, which, that's crazy town. They were 70 points ahead of the number 4 team, which the number 4 team was the New England Patriots. Still, they're in the championship game, probably going to go on to the Super Bowl like they do just about every other year. And the Seahawks were only 8 points behind New England. They were only 5 points behind Indianapolis. They were tied for 6 points with the Chargers and with the Steelers. How did this offensive approach harm them in this season? Apart from losing the Dallas game, which, if they would have passed more, they maybe would have scored more points. But you can't just point to one game and say that that's a flawed approach. They just didn't adjust well in that game against the Cowboys.
Right. They just didn't adjust quickly enough. And I mean, like you said, New England averaged 27.3 points per game throughout the regular season. Seattle averages 26.8. So basically, 0.5 of a point less per game, half a point less.
And I feel like people are acting like it's just this focus on running the ball that's part of the Seahawks team identity. No, it's running the football, being physical, and also explosive plays. And going down the stretch of the season since week 10, the Seahawks, they were tied with the Chiefs as the top team when it came to explosive plays. So that's the other part of their philosophy that they're leaving out here. And that's a big reason why they have a lot of success, because they run the ball, they're physical, and they hit explosive plays. So for Steven Ruiz, for only looking at the 538 stats and ignoring actual facts that matter, do better.
Yeah, I don't know. People try to make this game all about, like, so many complicated statistics and all this analytics, you hear DVOA and yards per attempt, all that crap, right?
Well, and some of it's not. It's not all crap. It's a lot of it's helpful information. It's just not.
Most of it's garbage. It comes down to points. Like that's what people like. That's how you play to win the game, is by scoring more points than the other person. And they're like, well, this run first approach doesn't work for the Seahawks or their passing game. Really? Well, sorry, Russell Wilson tied for 3rd in touchdown passes this year.
Well,
how did that happen?
I think with 538, what they're going toward, and with when they're measuring success, they use the expected points metric, the EPA metric, and it seems to be more reactive than a predictive statistic. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Sure.
measuring something that already happened versus measuring success.
It'll be interesting to me to see what these analytics nerds do when the whole league starts to adjust to this like high octane passing stuff, right? And basically your D linemen start to become like, 250 in weight and everybody's just fast. And then all of a sudden somebody comes along with that running mentality and then just jellies it down the whole league's throat and wins the title like 3 years in a row. And everybody starts to copy that next.
Yeah.
Like I'll be interested to see what they say then, because the league's cyclical, like it always has been.
And the reason why it's going this way is because the league's adjusting to throwing the ball more because it is advantageous when you don't allow the defense to play as physical as they had in years past.
Yeah, and it's better for fantasy.
Well, one of the stats I went back and I looked at all the 3-and-outs from the season, and the team only had 14 3-and-outs when they started with a pass this year. The curious thing is that 11 of those 14 3-and-outs came in a game that they lost. So 79% of their 3-and-outs where they started with a pass in a series, they came in games that they lost. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. And one of those games was a game and 2 out of the other 3 came in the Arizona game, which they nearly lost.
Right. And then just like you said, just watching those early games in the year and watch them try to be a pass first team out of the gate. And where did it get them? Smoked.
I looked at the series when they started with a run. 17 out of 44 came in a loss. So only 39% of their 3-and-outs when they started the series with a run came in games that they lost. Majority happened in the games that they won.
Well, the only thing I know, Brandon, is that 50% of all statistics are misleading.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Exactly.
On to Better at Life.
All right. My Better at Life this week is for NASA, because they've got a really cool idea for their next mission. And they've got a couple different that they're bantying about. And they're going to have the little competition for that this week. But I really hope this was the one that takes the cake. I hope this is what we try next.
Are they going to make cake?
No, but they could find the organic molecules on Titan that would allow you to make a cake, I would imagine.
Neat.
Yeah. Well, the whole point is that what they're proposing is a mission to Saturn's largest moon, Titan. And if you don't know much about Titan, it's pretty cool. We really don't know a crap ton about it. We did drop a probe called the Huygens probe on it a few years back. It kind of piggybacked on Cassini when it was flying around Saturn. And it was a European Space Agency probe. And we shot it down there, and it couldn't really do much. It just kind of like floated down, took some pictures on the way down, and then like froze up in like 3 minutes. It's super cold on Titan. But it does have really interesting features. It's the only place on in our solar system that we know of that liquid exists. Like in the sense of like liquid lakes and rivers and creeks and all that stuff.
But they're frozen.
But no, they're not frozen. It is liquid. The only thing is those liquids aren't water. They're hydrocarbon, like methane and things of that nature. And the ground, the rocky quote unquote surface, is water ice. But it does behave very much like the Earth does with its atmosphere and all that stuff. But we don't know that all that much about it. There's actually the possibility that there are all the things needed for there to be life on Titan. It's like the closest environment we have to Earth.
And it's that far away from the sun.
Yeah. But so it's very interesting. If you want to look more into Titan, I suggest you do it. I hope NASA does with their Dragonfly mission. That's what they're proposing. They're going to shoot off a drone/rover and head over to Titan, which it'll be massively easier to land a drone on Titan because it has a way thicker atmosphere than Mars, where that whole 7 minutes of terror thing happened, where they like drop it down and hope for the best. Like this one, like it's like kind of, you just gently loft it in there onto a pillow and it just kind of land. Though it's cool since it has such a thick atmosphere, Titan, that this rover they're proposing is going to be like a drone, a quadcopter that they can fly around freaking Titan and check out different places, take samples, and shoot the information back to Earth. I want that. I want a flying drone on Titan. So NASA, for this suggestion, I hope you pick it. Better at Life than Skip Bayless.
As fun as flying drones around on Earth is, Imagine if you had a remote control drone that's, 3 or 4 planets away.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
I mean, out of all the things you can do next, like, because one of the other proposals or the other big proposal is to go and like scoop some stuff off of a comet.
Yeah, we already did that in Armageddon.
Well, yeah, that was an asteroid, but okay.
Yeah, Bruce Willis already showed us that we can do that.
And we landed that one probe on the comet. What was that, like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And then we lost it down there. Like it didn't latch in right. I'm kind of over comets.
Tired of messing around with comets.
Right, Titan's way cooler than a comet.
That's true.
What if you see like some sort of like, I don't know, methane fish that swims around in methane, liquid methane? I'd like that. Let's go see. My better at life this week is for second grader Abigail Johnson. Playoff losses this time of year, they can cause a lot of emotion, usually negative emotion. And we saw Bears fans dropping 4-letter bombs after their kicker had a game-winning field goal just partially blocked. Seahawks fans calling for Schottenheimer to be fired after the loss to the Cowboys. And there were many Eagles fans upset after the ball went through the hands of Alshon Jeffrey and into the hands of Marshawn Lattimore this past weekend. Emily Caron of Sports Illustrated, she wrote an article about Abigail Johnson, an Eagles fan who was upset too after the loss to New Orleans. The article says, after the sadness of Sunday's loss, Abigail penned a letter to her favorite receiver, sharing that she cried when Jeffrey dropped the ball. But she also offered encouragement to the Eagles receiver. I am a huge fan. When I watched the play last night, I was crying. Here's the thing, Abigail. I'm not an Eagles fan, and I was nearly moved to tears with the reaction shots of Jeffrey on the sideline. You could see he was visibly being hard on himself during that play. It was hard for a non-Eagles fan to watch. But the letter continues. She says, it's okay to lose a game. You don't always have to win a game. We couldn't have won the Super Bowl without you. I think you are an awesome player, no matter what. And she closes by saying, I love you. My whole family was rooting for you. Don't give up on playing football. Keep practicing. Don't get mad easily. I know you can do it. We all know that you are a good player. Adam, the world needs more fans like Abigail Johnson. Abigail, you are better at life than Skip Bayless. So how long will it take for the rest of Eagles Nation to suck the kindness out of this poor little girl, so that by the time, because I have a feeling we're going to read an article when she's like 42 and she'll have like beamed like the Easter Bunny with a D-cell battery or something like at the stadium.
And we thought, what happened to the second grade Abigail Johnson? That was so
Eagles
kind.
Fans.
Yeah.
I just wonder how long that takes.
Don't ruin this, Eagles fans.
Or can she be the force of change?
I think she can be. I think the Eagles fan base now has hope.
I don't know. Have they been mean to this poor girl?
They better not be.
It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities, I think, with that fan base.
The Seahawks are going to Philly next year. Maybe we go and we fight any Eagles fan who wants to be mean to Abigail.
Bare knuckle brawl. I'm in.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Did we stutter when we mentioned, like, for the thousandth time? Does I stutter?